Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing as well as analysing tech news, which as usual has popped up in the past 24 or so hours. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. I'd just like to start the video out by thanking everyone for getting us to 80,000 subscribers. That is, well, that's a lot of people. I can't really put it any other way. A couple of people actually were messaging me and on my personal Facebook, like, dude, you hit over 80,000 subscribers. And me bleary-eyed, because as regular viewers know, I'm just kind of finishing the move at the moment. So I woke up bleary-eyed at like 80,000? Really? That happened fast. But as I said, thanks to everyone who has been a subscriber for a while, or even if you're just a recent kind of sub and you've just been enjoying the content. I know it's not the best in terms of words, and that hasn't really come out too smoothly, but it just feels very surreal to me that we actually have 80,000 subscribers, so it's just very difficult to put into words how grateful I am for that level of support. It's just, well, I said it already, it's just surreal, and as I said, thanks very much for everyone who has. One small thing as we move from the channel update, and that is that I am almost moved at the moment. There's a few small last little bits I need to do before I'm comfortable using cameras and stuff again, but it's getting close, and I'm pretty happy with what we've got. I'm waiting for one table and a few other little bits to kind of finish the filming setup as well, and I will also be looking at new camera equipment and that kind of stuff, but for now, I'm in at least a position where I can record in the interim. But let's move on to the story, shall we? Damn it! First things first, AMD's RX 5700 series. There was a report floating around the internet from cowcutland.com that AMD were no longer manufacturing either of the RX 5700 cards, so the XT as well as the vanilla. But this has been subsequently updated, thanks to videocards.com for this, by the way. The 5700 XT is not discontinued. It will be continued to be manufactured until the first quarter 2021. That's at a minimum. Meanwhile, the 5700, non-XT obviously, that is currently on special order. I honestly am not surprised that it's not been discontinued, and the reason behind that is because if you've been following along with the channel, you know this, but to my understanding, the higher end cards from AMD are what are going to release first, and it makes sense given that's exactly the strategy they've employed in the past, and it's also what they would need to do to fight off Nvidia's RTX 3080 and 3070. Obviously, if you don't have products to fight those, Halo products, such as the 3080, then you might as well just, pack up and go home. And AMD right now need to focus all of the press, all of the attention, at least in my opinion, and based upon what I'm hearing, on fighting the 3080. They need to show that they have a GPU which is capable of punching in Nvidia's class. And while I'm actually on the subject of this, I've been meaning to drop this into a video, but I just haven't gone around to it. And that is that I've received an update from another source, and they've told me that what I've heard from previous sources is correct regarding the performance characteristics of AMD's next generation GPUs. The specs are roughly accurate as well, especially when it comes to the cache on the GPU. Again, I've heard it being referred to as the Infinity Cache. I don't know if that's going to be the final name, but that's what I'm hearing it's called, and the features as well. So it looks like what I even said about the hardware-based ray tracing being better than Turing, but not as good as Ampere is correct. And it also seems that there is some upsampling technology, but again, I don't think it's quite as good as DLSS. Or at least, maybe not as good is the wrong way to phrase it. It doesn't work like Nvidia's DLSS. I've heard from a less reliable person, it might be a bit like an enhanced version of Radeon image sharpening. but essentially it works slightly lower quality than DLSS, but apparently the performance is faster. I'm not sure. There's a couple of people that have told me this. One person's more trustworthy, but a couple of people have told me that same thing. So maybe that's true. We'll have to wait and see. Who the hell knows? The fact of the matter is, though, that when it comes to the performance of these GPUs, it looks like AMD will, at the very least, be offering some level of competitive performance to Nvidia, but what is new information is that the photos that I've leaked of the cards, apparently I was inaccurate with the names. So I don't unfortunately know right now what the names of the cards are, because this news source refuses to tell me, because there's not enough people internally that are aware of the names, and so they don't want to get anyone into trouble or get themselves into trouble, which is fair enough. I totally understand. At the end of the day, I'm making YouTube videos and it's fun, but it's not worth getting anyone, having anyone's wrists lapped. But from what I understand, what I was calling the 6700, which was the dual fan card, is not the 6700. I'm less sure about the triple card, whether that's the 6900 or whether that's the 6800. Again, I was told that there is a liquid version of the highest end SKU planned, but it's looking like it's going to be next year. So we'll have to wait. Not that the names actually make any real difference, to be honest. I'm more interested in the performance, but I did want to give you that small update. Speaking of updates, there's a fascinating story from Nvidia, and that is that they have pushed the launch back of the 3070 for desktop by about 2 weeks. So now we actually have a launch date for the 29th of October, and that is 1 day exactly after AMD reveals their RDNA 2 lineup, or at the very least gives us an understanding of what the architecture is capable of. So the 3070, Nvidia are stating, is basically on par with the 2080 Ti in traditional rasterization performance. I assume it's going to be faster in hardware-based ray tracing. It features 5888 CUDA cores and 8 GB of memory. That's GDDR6, not 6X. But the important thing about this GPU is that it's only going to cost $499. Now, I know that's not cheap. It's still, quite a few school lunches. But if you compare that to the price of the 2080 Ti, I think it's pretty damn good. And I also think that this is a sweet spot for many people. Especially given the prevalence of 1440p monitors seems to be increasing at the moment. I think a card like this, driving a high refresh rate 1440p monitor, or kind of a 60-ish hertz 4K display makes a lot of sense. And I suspect that it will be a very popular card. I suspect it's probably going to be more popular than the 3080. So I actually don't mind Nvidia postponing the card for a couple of reasons. I know some people are going to grumble because they're going to say, well, it's Nvidia just trying to take the limelight from AMD and that stuff, and I get that. But here's the thing. I think it works out for the best for us as end users. I'm interested to see your perspectives on this, but this is how I feel. But I think this for a couple of reasons. One, hopefully they will sort out some system to stop basically the robots from grabbing the cards. And hopefully there will also be more product available as well, more inventory. But ignoring availability and, that type of thing just for a second, the main reason I like this is that you will have a better understanding of whether you should plonk your $500 down for Nvidia or AMD. Unfortunately, it's likely that we won't have AMD's benchmarks released to the press at that point, because from what I understand, the cards are going to launch mid-ish November, early to mid-ish November. I'm hearing everything from the 10th to the 11th, to like the 17th or something like that for the release. And reviews are possibly going to go live a couple of days earlier. So there is that. but you will at least have an understanding of what AMD will be doing in terms of, prices, performance, and that type of thing. This isn't to say that I advocate you purchasing a product purely based on manufacturers' claims, whether that's Intel, Nvidia, or AMD. I don't advocate that at all, or any other product in the history of humanity. But I would at least say that you would have a better understanding of what's what. So if, for example, AMD say, well, hey, we have a card which is capable of outperforming the 3070, and we're going to charge $450. Nvidia might say, oh, okay then, well, we're going to charge X, but our card does this better. And again, I'm not saying any of this is accurate, I'm just simply saying that it's good for us as end users to actually know what the hell we're pre-ordering or plonking our money down. At least that's how I feel. There are a couple of other very small stories that I'd like to just jump into real quick. These are going to focus mostly on the PlayStation. The first is that Gran Turismo 7, a number of you actually messaged me about this one, is confirmed by Sony to, of course, feature hardware-based ray tracing, supports 4K, HDR with a targeted frame rate of 60 FPS. There are other benefits too, like faster loading. For example, cars will just load instantly so you can scroll through them without having to wait 20 seconds for the next one to pop in. Obviously, it supports Tempest 3D audio technology, but there is also adaptive trigger and haptic feedback, which allow you to obviously have resistance when you're pulling down the triggers of the DualShock, and also feel rumble and stuff like that. This is where I'm going to make tons of people mad. I'm actually not that excited about those features, at least the adaptive triggers and haptic. I personally really dislike rumble. I disable it on every single thing I can. And it really breaks my immersion on games. I don't know why. It always has. Ever since like the PS2 and PS1 and whatever, it's always bugged me. I will, on the other hand, not say that I won't try it. At the end of the day, maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe when I try it, it's revolutionary, and I say, you know what, I have to eat my words on this one. I was wrong. It's awesome. But currently, I'm not that interested in those features. Like, the rest of the stuff, the games and all of that, yeah, okay, you've got me. But, yeah, I'm not so sure about the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. I'm curious to see how this is actually received in the wider kind of audience, because people who have gotten to try it, they've said it's cool. But, again, I think that something like that is very personal. To be honest, even like the feel of a joypad, I'm kind of weird because, I think most of you know I'm weird, but when it comes to the controllers, Xbox is like my default when it comes to like FPS games. Not that I play tons of FPS on controller anyway, but for those I do. I do prefer the feeling of an Xbox pad. I also kind of prefer it too when it comes to games like 3D action, like, I don't know, Tomb Raider. But fighting games and other titles, I think I prefer the PlayStation pad typically. So I kind of go between the two, especially on PC, as you obviously can use either, which I personally love. And the last thing I'd like to discuss today is Spiderman, Remastered. As you are probably aware, Miles Morales will be released on the PlayStation 5. It will also launch on the PS4 too. But there is a remastered version of Spider-Man which will be included with Miles Morales if you pick up the Ultimate Edition. There is a whole thing on the on the way that that's handled. I'm not going to touch that with a barge pole in this particular video. But what we have actually now is a couple of videos which shows what Spider-Man Remastered looks like. The first thing is that Peter Parker's facial model is just completely and utterly changed. It's now, the actor Ben Jordan rather than John Bubnick. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Peter himself actually looks a bit younger as well. Honestly, it's very difficult to not just associate this with Tom Holland. The developers have actually commented on this and said that they understand that people don't like it so much, but they also feel that tons of people will like it. I actually don't really care one way or the other, to be honest. I will say that only negative is if Tom is replaced in, like, I don't know, a couple of years' time, for example. I think it will kind of age the game a little bit. Maybe I'm overthinking that. However, we also have a video too showing Spider-Man Remastered in performance mode, which is 60 FPS. They don't mention what the resolution is for this, and it's hard to deny that the game itself looks way better with performance mode enabled. And they've also stated that, of course, we're going to get things like ray traced reflections and all that stuff. So it definitely looks pretty damn cool. But again, I think we kind of expect that as a minimum for the next generation. I know there is a ton of debate at the moment when it comes to resolution and games, and frankly, I don't think that it's a big deal with the first generation of titles. I think developers are still trying to get a handle on things. I'm going to be more interested, as I've said before, in the next year, like when developers really get a handle on the consoles, what they're actually able to wrangle out of them. I think at the moment, developers are definitely in the, what the hell, how do I make full use of this hardware? So I guess we'll find out over the next year or two exactly what these consoles are capable of. It's the same in every generation. Obviously with the PS4 and Xbox One, it took a while for the developers to really get a handle on things. Same with the Xbox 360. Like if you took, I don't know, like Gears, let's take actually something like Perfect Dark Zero and you compare that to even Gears 1. And then you compared that to like one of the later Gears games on the Xbox 360. There is no comparison. And of course the same thing for PS3 as well. Like early PlayStation 3 games looked like garbage compared to something like The Last of Us. But anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. The normal stuff, like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.